So welcome everybody. I hope you enjoyed our discussions this morning. How about some great cocktail conversation, right? Whip out that teraflops word and you'll be impressing a lot of people. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. Today we're going to be talking about beyond dashboards, and what we wanted to talk about today is what data is out there in my Geotab that really is not getting used that much for fleet management. For me, and I'm Laurie Sehl, by the way, I'm an account manager at Geotab. I've been there for about a year and a half. And before that, I was in, my whole career basically was in fleet management. So loved Geotab, loved the data, loved the concepts. Now I'm working here, which is so much fun. So when I walked in that door, it was quite an awakening. The information that I was able to get a better handle on based on what I saw before and then after was incredible. And I think you probably would agree with me, some of those who are resellers out there, Geotab's reporting, exception reporting, their dashboards is really a gold standard that was set. It is amazing. If you people who haven't had access to this information, haven't seen it, go look at it. Go look, Geotab's their own YouTube channel. Check out some of these things. You will be suitably impressed. It's basically a way you can customize the system for the end user so that they're getting the most out of the system that they need to get. One of the things, though, that was confusing to me was, why is there some stuff out there that's not being used? And I had my own ideas about what that was. But I was puzzled by the fact that there's stuff out there that is so competitively advantageous, but really wasn't used that much. And I had my own ideas, but I went out to the average Geotabber and asked them, and by the way, this is what the average Geotabber looked like to me when I started 2 years ago. I'm happy to say I increased the stat age to about 37 now. So we asked them, if you were to pick one feature of my Geotab that you feel is very useful, but misunderstood and hence not showcased well enough by our resellers, what would that be? So what do you guys think they said? Anybody? Dashboards? Anybody? Let's look. The survey said engine measurements. But I'm not going to jump into engine measurements yet. I want to touch on some of these other things that the Geotabbers did touch on, and they're really important points that they made. Engine, as you said earlier, and rules engine and dashboards. Extremely valuable. It can be customized, and their feeling is resellers, some of them at least, maybe aren't customizing them to the degree that they need to. Maybe they are just looking at some of the standard stuff and not really listening and taking advantage of those customizations. It is phenomenal. Groups is extremely powerful. I was amazed when I came into Geotab and what they could do with groups, how you can overlay our vehicles into multiple different groups and then set rules around those groups. There's users you can group and set up security access by user groups. It's awesome stuff. The getting started and help section on the top left corner of my Geotab is awesome. So in there, you can click on a link to find out what's new at Geotab, and that's monthly. Honestly, this stuff is changing monthly. So there's some really good information in there. There's resources, video resources in there for the end user to look at. There is all you need to know about my Geotab, a user guide. We refer to it as employees often. So don't discount that little section. And then when we get into zones and routing and notification, a little smaller section there, but zones are really powerful. You can measure windshield time, as they say, or versus customer time, right? There's some really neat things you can do with zones that use your imagination, and then work with your reseller, or if you're a reseller, get in touch with Geotab if you need some ideas. You've got a problem you're trying to solve. Let's see if we can help you with that, okay? So let's go, and we're going to dive into engine measurements, and Colin had a great point. It's not really engine measurements, and for those of us who are from outside Geotab or have been outside of Geotab, we think of engine measurements, and then you have a very limited view of what that means. It's really vehicle information, the sensor information in the vehicle, everything you see on your dashboard, anything that comes out of the engine, the fuel, the transmission, anything we can get comes here through my Geotab. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Here's some really interesting comments that came in with my little survey of the Geotabbers. We don't see a huge use of the fault code reporting. They also said, we really need to do more for our resellers and our end users to be able to take advantage of this information. The fuel usage is amazing. It really is amazing if you haven't spent too much time on it. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't work for all vehicles, so then the perception is it's a limited opportunity. And then the final one, which Vic, our ELD engineer, said, it's crucial to lowering total cost of ownership, but it's largely ignored. So what do we do with that? Then when I talk to the resellers, they're going, oh yeah, Laurie, this is a great soundbite when I'm selling Geotab, because you're talking about engine faults and the check engine light coming on and all those great things. But in reality, there are way too many faults for us to get our arms wrapped around. It's confusing. We don't get all the codes for all the vehicles. We don't know which are crucial and which aren't. And I'm not a mechanic, so why would I even bother? So those are really, why am I here? Well, then this is where we're going to move you over to the light side. And we're talking today about how to better understand and articulate Geotab's advantage in this particular area. We're going to introduce some new reports that we found with our solutions engineers. They've been hoarding some gold out there, I tell you. It's gold, Jerry, gold, as they say. So I said, you got to get this out there. And then at the end, and this is the most important point, we want to talk to all of you. Let's have a great discussion. Who out there is using this stuff? What are you doing with it? Let's share some ideas. And let's get your ideas and feedback. We want to make it easier for you as well. So I know I'm speaking to the choir. However, it'd be remiss without starting with the benefits of this information to fleet management. Firstly, if you can get a handle on some of these DTC codes, you can avoid major repairs. You can reduce your fleet costs and your downtime, obviously. You can have a safer vehicle. It's not sitting on the side of the road. You can make a really great informed decision about what vehicles to buy and when to sell the vehicle before you have another catastrophe or an unexpected repair. And then finally, when you start combining with our big data analytics, and you'll hear more about this in later sessions, then you're predicting component failure. And actually, coming up tomorrow at 11 o'clock is Pepsi, and how they have actually worked with Geotab to predict battery failure up to about 99% accuracy, and that's just not on their big trucks. That applies to everybody. And I went out there into the field, and I actually, you can imagine for me, new to Geotab, B, no technical real background. So I went out and I interviewed as many people as I could. I talked to the super users of the Geotab data. I talked to our automotive engineers. I talked to our solutions engineers. I talked to clients, end users who never have used it but want to. So this is what the super users are actually saying. The ones who use this data are getting some real value out of it. They're saying, we avoided 12 engine failures last year because of your information. Our mechanics review it daily. It's part of their system. We're now, and we talked about this, we're now able to predict battery failure. The data gets better the more you use it, the more comfortable you get, and the more time you put into it, and the awareness you become much more aware of your fleet and the particularities that come with it. The two bottom points I think should be at the top, honestly. This was really cool information that I gathered. They use this data to monitor post-repair effectiveness. In other words, I've had a failure. I look at the DTC codes before that failure. And then after it's repaired, they go away. But all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, they pop up again. Is that a sign of something to happen? Did the repair actually do what it was supposed to do? So I thought that was cool. And then the other thing that they said, which was really neat, is they use it to support warranty claims. So an example could be that if you have a pattern of failures and you see what codes are in effect before that failure happens, and you start seeing those vehicles come off the line with those codes triggered already, you have quite a bit of information now, and that's an extreme case, but quite a bit of information to go back. You could even look at when those codes started popping up, and was that before warranty? And of course, I'm not guaranteeing you any kind of warranty recovery, but certainly it gives you a lot of good information to go back to your rep and see what you can do there. We have a special guest here today, and I'm going to get him to talk a little bit later about this, but to put some teeth to this, the engine failures that they avoided in 1 year was worth $108,000 versus preventative maintenance of $5,000. So that gives you a lot of food to go back to the office or to back to your end users and say, hey, let's work this out. It's overwhelming, though, to try to think, how are we going to do this? So this is what helped me, and I'm hoping it will help you. It's a little bit of education on how we gather this information. And this took a lot of interviewing to pull it all together in my little mind, and I'm hoping my simplistic view on things is going to help everybody else as well. We got a lot of smart people at Geotab, so this is what is going on behind the scenes. We have data that is broadcast to us from the engine port. Most of what's broadcast are the big trucks, the J1939, the 9-pin harness connections. That information, for the most part, is broadcast to us. If it's broadcast, we get it, okay? It may not be worded, but it's in there. There's a code in there, and you can go get it. For the OBD2 port connections, your 16-pin connections, your light-duty, medium-duty trucks, we get some of it broadcast to us. Some of it's just there, available to go get it. That's a lot of what we invest in. Our engineers are going out and pulling that data, analyzing it, understanding it, figuring out what it means to you, and then putting it into the user interface. Hugely valuable. But again, it's not always consistent, right? Every manufacturer, every engine, every model year could be different. We have a saying at Geotab, hide the seatbelt. Seatbelt's a proprietary information code that comes through the port, but we have to go look for it, and every year it tends to change spots, and we never know for sure where it is. So there's a lot of effort that goes into seatbelt, which is a huge competitive advantage for us. And that goes along with all this information. So, okay, now that we know what we're dealing with here, right? It's not going to be perfect. We're going to get what we get from those engines. But what we do get, and for the most part, we're able to normalize it for you to compare. We're bucketing it for you. We're filtering it for you. And then we're reporting on it. And then you can customize those reports to start working on a project with your end users. You're going to be able to get a good sense of the engine health. You're going to be able to understand emissions. Fuel consumption, we talked about earlier, is really great stuff. And even the telematics device has fault codes. You do not want a telematics device that has not calibrated yet. That's a third of the value that comes out of that system. Resellers need to keep an eye on that. I mean, it's rare, but it does happen. You want to make sure that it's calibrated. So this is what the super users, I said to them, okay, great, we get it now, but what did you do? A lot of them, I'm not going to lie, have systems that they've created around all of this, but how did you start? Give me help me understand, to help our folks at Connect understand where to begin with this stuff. So the first thing they said, and it's a consistent theme with everybody, work with a trusted mechanic. Geotab is not mechanics. You guys, for the most part, aren't mechanics. You need to work with a mechanic. They know what's going on with these codes, right? Also, they said, and this was a really important point, understand the total cost of the repair you're trying to circumvent. If it's a $500 repair and you do not value you don't value downtime, or your client doesn't value downtime, why waste your time on this project? But if you've got an engine failure like we talked about earlier, and you've got, let's say, a $2,000 cost ahead of you, plus the time of downtime and the rental and everything else, why not investigate that as a potential opportunity for savings? And then from there, understand with your mechanic, what is the cost of preventing that repair? Is it going to be costly to do this or not? And then do the math. Then you have at least an idea of where you're going to go with this information. They said this, keep it simple, don't try to boil the ocean. In fact, you could start with one vehicle and just start to play with it. You could start with one primary make and model year. Model year is important because it changes year to year. So maybe what you could do is group those vehicles and start running reports on engine codes and see what kind of patterns you see. From there, review some past unexpected repairs. And the end user is going to have that information. None of us do, but the end user does. All right, so they know that the engine failed last March or whenever it was, and they spent a whole ton of money on it. Don't want to have that happen again. Is there a way we could have circumvented that? Let's look at all of the vehicles in that category and see what patterns we're seeing. Once the repair's done, what happens to those codes? Do they disappear? Do some of them disappear or not? Then you've got a whole ton of information to now go back and maybe create some reports, some dashboards, some information that could get you ahead of that unexpected repair. The other thing that I thought was interesting is I picked up some really good tidbits, and I didn't want to leave them out. So here are some of the things they measure, all right? Transmission fluid, coolant level, coolant temperature, percent oil life remaining. Oil temperature was an interesting one to me. Someone said, listen, when the oil light comes on, it really is too late. What we look at is oil temperature because the lower the oil gets, the hotter it gets. Thought that was cool. Fuel level, I mean, you get why you can measure fuel level. It's the safety perspective, but also from a maintenance perspective, if someone's running on a low level of oil or fuel all the time, there's opportunity for some of that crud coming out of the bottom of the tank. And then battery voltage, and again, you're going to hear some more about battery voltage, but we do a very good job on battery voltage. Some of the fault codes to take a look at. Generic overheating, that's one of the ones that was highlighted as a big savior for them. Check engine light. Engine light means a ton of things, but also know that when you get a report from Geotab, you see that check engine light code come on, but at the same timestamp, you're going to see maybe 2 or 3 other faults that are showing up. That gives you a huge amount of information about whether or not it's an urgent situation or not. Again, working with your mechanic, you guys can come up with a great little formula. There's a low priority engine light as well that you can pull out. Just look at the high volume of hard fault codes. And by the way, there's 2 different types of fault codes that I learned about. The hard fault codes are the ones you see most of in my Geotab directly. Those are a sign of a problem of some sort, of some severity. The pending fault codes, which you don't see but are there, and if you need to dig into them, if you're more curious or interested in seeing those things, the pending fault codes are showing a trend behind the scenes of an about to happen hard fault code. So for the more curious and adventurous, you can start to look at that stuff. And then OEM fault codes, and they're different from OEM to OEM. We don't always know what they are. That's where we have to go searching and looking for them. With some of the announcements you're going to hear later, I'm hoping that that will actually improve what we're pulling out from an OEM perspective and being able to display that to you in my Geotab. Some other tidbits are, and I thought these were interesting, and I tried to do a bit of fact checking for you as well. One of our automotive engineers, Tom Wally, you might know him, he's been with us forever, said, did you know that as soon as the check engine light goes on, and it doesn't matter if it's a gas cap or not, the algorithm associated with fuel consumption changes, and all of a sudden that's a quick hit on your fuel consumption. It might be up to 40% depending on what's causing that code to flag. I mean, these are great things to talk to your clients about. Tire pressure, I think you probably know this, but if your tire pressure is low, more road resistance, lower fuel consumption. So why not keep an eye on that tire pressure if you can? And again, we're not going to get all of them for every vehicle. So keep that in mind. O2 sensor, the oxygen sensor, is an immediate hit on your fuel consumption. Another fault code that you're going to see, and it's a sign to get things fixed. And low engine temperature, we all know that your engine runs cold. If it's running cold, you're going to suck up more fuel. So with that, I want to introduce some new reports to you that our solutions engineers have been hoarding. And I joke with them a little bit because we have a lot of good stuff in the marketplace, but they do a lot of work to help out, certain fleets to figure things out, and they've got this bucket of gold sitting on their PC that no one knows about. And so we have gone out and said to them, like, do you have anything that you really good that you worked on that we can share with people? And they're a little hesitant because, well, I created it a while ago, or we haven't really tested it at all. But listen, why would we hoard this stuff? Like, we've got resellers out there, they know how to customize reports. Let's give them the head start on some of this stuff, give them some ideas and let them go with it, with the provision that they're not going to hold us to it, but at least it's a start. So this is what we've got. And you may already have some of these reports, but first of all, don't forget about the free tools in the marketplace. We do a lot of custom reporting to get you guys started and get the end user started on using the data. So take a look. There's stuff being added there all the time. We also have marketplace partners that overlay on top of our diagnostics, mainly for big trucks, that actually can predict when a component's going to fail. So really cool stuff. So check that out. And then we have marketplace partners that actually build maintenance systems that pull in some of this stuff and use our scheduled reminders and also know when the repair was done. So it's really a great integrated solution. Okay, so here's some little reports that I thought were pretty cool. Jordan, our head solutions engineer, had this in his blog post. I went, where did you get that? That's so cool. He said, it's easy to do. I said, okay, well, let's show it off. Let's give them this. And you might already have this, but I thought, what a great way to take a look at where your problem is right away on oil. Oil life percentage remaining. But we don't get that for every vehicle. But we may get oil level. We may get oil temperature. So work with the data and see what you can come up with.
Is this based on engine hours, or is it based on oil temp, or what's the basis of the rating?
It's the actual, when you turn on your vehicle, it's showing up there. So it's basically the engine telling you, right?
So it's the vehicle's predicted
Yes.
percentage.
Yes.
And if when you take it in, they don't reset it then it's not valid? Or probably not.
Yes, that's correct. You're right. Top faults. One of the engineers, Ben, he's not here, has created a few nice reports that I think you could really make use of. This one filters out all the telematics diagnostics, all right, which gets very busy sometimes. So they've taken that out, and then they're able to show you what vehicles are triggering the highest number of faults. So a nice quick hit, all right, on getting information right away as a dashboard and turning it into report. This is another one which I think is the basis of some of the other ones. It's basically just an engine fault report, but he's also added a link on the far right side that gives you a link to be able to diagnose the code. So if we don't have words around it, but you've got a code that's been broadcast to us, then you've got a great head start on figuring out what it is. And I believe we've got this for the J1939 as well. Here's a cool one too. Again, a word of warning on this one, but it's a really great one, and I'm sure you know about it, but it's worth mentioning, and it's available to you. This is the idle time report that looks at power takeoff idle time. So when you've got something using the engine to actually, let's say, a generator is attached to the vehicle, all right? It's using power takeoff idle time to power that thing. That's legit idle time. You need to be able to understand what the idle time is that's not attached to that PTO so that you've got a good piece of information to go back to your users and say, hey, we've got an opportunity for savings. It's important to know with this report also that the PTO isn't available on all vehicles. You can work an IOX around it. You can create reports around it. So if you need some help, let your reseller know, or resellers let us know, and we'll help you out with that. So in summary, and I want to save some time here for, I forgot to mention, I don't know if it's in here. Anyway, I have a link in here that will give you those reports. You just have to click on it, and those reports are there for you to load, okay? So in summary, vehicle sensor data is a key competitive advantage for us. Actually, I was talking to JP earlier, and he may be here, but we had a reseller. The reseller was competing against PeopleNet, I believe, or Omnitrax. Omnitrax was showing 3 sensor codes for repair versus 130. So you had 127 more pieces of information as a mechanic or as an end user to make a really intelligent decision. So to me, that says a lot about the engine information you're getting. So first point, let's be courageous, be brave, set expectations, right? Now you know what the limitations are, and the more information we get from the OEMs, the even better it's going to get. But know what your limitations are, set the right expectations, say to the end user, holy cow, it's not going to be perfect, but you could be 50% or 70% ahead of the game with information. At least you've got some if you don't have it all. Start simple and encourage getting mechanical input. And a trusted mechanic, right? Someone that the end user is comfortable with. So it's like a great opportunity, we talked about this a lot as a group, a great opportunity to really differentiate yourselves as a reseller. The more you invest in this with your client, the deeper the partnership becomes. So you've got the client with their information, you've got the mechanic with their know-how, you've got you, the reseller, with your skills in creating some of these reports for them and consulting, and that becomes a really great relationship. And take advantage of the reports we just talked about. There's your link right there. And by the way, you have all this information in your app, all right? So it's all there for you. And I have also, we're not going to go over it, but I also summarized everything I could find in Geotab, resources from the Tuesday talks, resources from our blog posts at the end of the presentation in links. So they're all there for you. Share these resources with your clients. They'll love some of this stuff. Pick and choose how technical you get, but the level of respect that they'll have for the information they have will improve. And then don't forget, you've got us back at Geotab to help you out. If you have a creative idea, we're not going to share it with anybody. The only time we share it is when we create the report. If you're creating the report, that is your property, okay? But if you need some help understanding what the weaknesses are in your strategy, let us know. We'll get one of these smart guys involved. So right now, what I wanted to do, and I don't know what time we have. Can someone let me know? Oh, beautiful. Okay. So what we want to do is take an opportunity to start the conversation. And I wanted to kick it off a little bit. I have with me today the guy who saved 12 engine failures in a year for $108,000 savings. Stand up if you don't mind. Travis Smith of Key Fleet Services, right? He's one of our resellers. Travis has got he does the mechanical work for Marathon. Marathon has a fleet of everything from cars all the way up to medium heavy duties and fire engines and the works. So he's been able to take advantage of this, and I thought if he could, he might be able to add some perspective to what I've already told you. Travis?
The report thing, the reason you guys don't use this, or your end users don't use this, is your end users don't know how to make those reports. So the reports they're telling you that you should use is the report you should give to your end user. It's literally on the dashboard, it's made up for them, all the information's there. If they have to go build the report, they're not going to use it. I had to go build the report. We had to justify to Marathon why they were spending $250,000 a year when all we were only tracking was accidents. When I started the marathon, we only tracked accidents. They were at 63 accidents a month. After about 2 months, we were down to 1.5 accidents a month. That's including marathon employees plus contractors. Well, when they got their bill after the first year, they were like, I'm spending way too much money to figure out accidents. What else can you do? So we started all these reports and we started all the engine data. And it's to the point now where I have a person in Marathon that just watches engine data. If they see a vehicle that has low coolant, I'll tell you a story about the Marathon is a union. They're like your teenage driver. They just want to start the car and go. They don't care that it's making 1,000 noises as long as it gets there. They don't care if it blows up. They'll call you, say it blow up, you come fix it. So if we don't actively do it before it blows up, they're just going to blow up. And then they look at us, well, why'd you let it blow up? I didn't let it blow up. I didn't hear it make noise. It's a 3,500 acre facility. I can't be everywhere. So we actively went and got these reports, and we have someone watch these. And so if we see low coolant, as a Geotab, we go literally take the vehicle from the person. Hey, I'm taking your vehicle. Why? Because you can't hear it knock. It has no water in it. It happens all the time because it's not their vehicle. They don't care. They didn't buy the vehicle. They don't pay the monthly fees. They don't care at all. I'm there for the benefit of the upper management of Marathon. Those lower people really don't care at all. So when we get on this data, we have to give reports to them. These are engineers who, I want the facts. I don't want you to tell me the story. Tell me what you're doing for me. So you guys have to give these reports to your customers. Not, hey, you need to go make this and pull the data for yourself. They're not going to do that. You know they're not going to do that. They don't do it now. That's why it's the most unutilized dashboard. So you have to do these reports, and it'll make it much simpler. And it'll make it, basically it'll draw the picture for them of where they can save their money at.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Travis. Is there anybody else out there? Yeah, great. Is there anybody else out there that's made use of this information and they want to care to share some stories? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ricky Rivera out from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm one of the account relationship coordinators, so I work personally with a lot of customers, EFM and Sprint customers mainly. But with that, we've actually redesigned a lot of the dashboard reports and made a lot of great use and strides in taking a look at idle times, the engine maintenance reports, safety scorecard as well. I've actually partnered with Ben Schwartz, if anyone's met him, in redesigning those reports as well. And a lot of customers love the looks of the reports, the ease and access of the reports, because they're just, you click it, you open it, you've got your data. So I would encourage anyone to just take a look at those, take a look at all the reports and what you can do with them, mainly because the customers, they don't know it's available until we present it to them. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
How about questions? How can we help you?
It's kind of on a technical side. Is it possible to watch for a particular DTC code and then send an alert based on a particular code?
Yeah, and I think that comes with a word of warning though, right? You want to make sure the DTC code, and this is what the question I get all the time. How come you guys don't come up with the perfect report and show us all the DTC codes that are a problem? Well, the problem is they're different from manufacturer to manufacturer, from model year to model year. And if it was easy, someone would have done this a long time ago. So what our purpose is, and you know, if you know that DTC code means something, yes, by all means, you can create a report. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're collecting all sorts of great data here, and are you then exposing that beyond reports into machine learning and AI push notifications, looking for patterns, cross-referencing with other different accounts? You have 1.2 million sensors out there. There's got to be buckets of this stuff, and starting to dashboard it and push it as opposed to report and sit and watch.
Yeah, welcome to the evolution of Geotab. It is so much fun working here. So you will, if you go to the seminar at 11 o'clock tomorrow, the ones I mentioned with Pepsi, that is a great example of us being able to use big data analytics with Pepsi giving us information about their repairs. But the key point here is we got all this information, but we don't know when it actually got repaired. We don't know how much it cost, right? We're not on that angle to get that piece of information. So it's key to get the client or the end user involved in giving us that information so we can overlay it with the big data to get something really useful to come out of it.
Does that come from Pepsi or does it come from Geotab?
The Pepsi stuff came, we worked together on it, but the repair side of it has to come from Pepsi. Because we don't know when you repaired it, what you repaired.
So the whole idea, what can I do with all this great data?
Oh, I believe it was a joint effort, right? Yeah. But that's going to be an evolution for sure. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Where do you find these pending fault codes?
I will get that for you. So the pending fault, I got Ben to actually create a report. I don't know if he added it to the folder or not. And Angie Milne had a great report that I didn't showcase here that's in the folder as well. And it is engine fault code showing and then all the details with the engine fault code. Take a look at it. It's pretty cool.
Where is this in?
In that report link that I put in the presentation, and it's in your app as well. But if you need it, get your account manager to send it to you, okay? Anything else? Well, listen, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Let me just add, my name is Donald Fugwell. Thank you. Is that in addition to the reports, you can also create rules around these measurements as well. So if you're looking for something very particular, you can create a rule around, say, oil life remaining. You say something like, if it gets below 15%, I want to alert. So not only do you have to go and monitor the report, you can also alert out. You can do that with default codes, that's measurements as well. So it's just another way or more detailed reporting available to you.
On that, we have a customer that is a fairly large logistics distributing company, and they requested that their fuel levels give off an alert based on a level, so 20%. And the reason with that was their transportation manager, for the most part, 90% of the time, their vehicles were being utilized by the same driver, of course. But sometimes when the vehicles were brought back to the yard, some of the yard dogs or yard people would have to move these vehicles for on-spot transportation, pickups, and deliveries. And sometimes the vehicle was left on low fuel. So what they did was they created a rule, or they requested that a rule be created based on fuel levels. So anytime a vehicle, while in transportation or wherever, reached a point of 20% or lower on fuel level, they would have the ability to know that and then fill up those and make sure that it was a standard from their company that fuel never dropped below 20%.
That's cool. That's a really good example.
Another good one to add to that, that would be a good rule to create for a lot of the fleets up in the north part, like the Midwest and Maine and stuff like that, when it gets really cold during the winter, is when the battery voltage drops below like 11
Yeah.
volts or 11 volts.
Yeah.
You want to get a notification that the battery's getting low on that vehicle for possible, failure or replacement.
I think that's a standard report, actually.
Big data
Yeah.
too, and then overlay like a map of temperature throughout the United States. So when you predict like it's going to get down to 20 below, and then you look at your vehicles that are dropping below 11 volts or something like that.
That's a good idea.
Almost say that when this driver goes out to turn the key, it's not.
Right, right. That's a good idea.
There's a lot of different things you can do with as you
Yeah.
said, with big data.
Yeah.
And also interlinking it with the notifications.
Yeah, very good idea. Anybody else? I know I have to get you out of here 15 minutes early so you have time for a coffee and switcheroo. So thank you so much for your time. I'm glad someone showed up. This is cool. Take care.